Hey guys, my name's Kendu. Thanks for tuning in and clicking on my video. Today we're going to be going over the tier list of all the stratagems that are in the game of Helldivers 2. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, first thing on the list is the railgun. Now, railgun, favorite support weapon that you can get in the game. In my honest opinion, this thing is by far the best thing that you can have. It's definite S tier. It is definitely going right up to the top of the list. Reason why: this thing is super versatile. You can kill anything with this gun. It has the most ammo out of all the support weapons that are going to be that versatile. That's going to be killing everything. Don't get me wrong. There's other support weapons that have more ammo than it, but this thing is able to kill everything. Other guns do not have that capability. So with that, this thing is really strong. If you switch this thing from safe to unsafe mode, the amount of damage you can get out of this thing top end is just amazing. This thing can kill a Titan with 2 shots if you're hitting it right, which is just super good. And yeah, this thing is just amazing. I love this gun. You get it at level 20, and you just cannot go wrong with the railgun. So from there, we have the expendable anti-tank rifles. Now, this guy's going to be sitting at a B for me. Just reason why is this thing is very versatile. Obviously, you can kill basically everything with it. The firepower is not there to be able to kill things with just one stratagem of this stuff. But this is going to put down the support for you, and you get this at a very early level in the game as well. So this is definitely worth the purchase because this thing has a really short cooldown as well. So you can get this thing out every minute and 20 seconds. I believe it's pretty close to that. So yeah, this thing's awesome. You should definitely get this at the early levels. Next, we have the spear. Now, the spear is the end game rocket launcher that's able to lock on. I'm going to rank it at an A. Reason why is this thing can kill anything in the game. But the reason why it's not going up to an S tier is there is a few things that need to be met to use this thing properly. One, you need to be at long range is ideal. Mid range can work, is viable, but this thing shines at long range. Now, also positioning matters as well. If you're not hitting at the weak point on the enemy. So example, Bile if you're not hitting in the face with this, instead of you're hitting in the back or at the sides, it's not going to kill it one shot. The face needs to be hit by the spear for it to be a one hit shot kill. So just with that, it is versatile. It is able to kill everything, but there is a few things that do need to be met. So it's going to be shining at an A for me. From there, we have the autocannon. Now, the autocannon, I'm putting this at an A as well. Reason why is this thing is very strong when you can get it. I believe it's at either level 10 or level 12. This thing has unbelievable firepower. This thing is able to destroy things very well. The only downside to the autocannon is it can ricochet off of heavy armor, so you really got to make sure that you're shooting straight on your opponent. You cannot shoot at them at a side angle or anything because your bullets are just going to ricochet. As long as they're a heavy armored enemy, that's the reason. Anything that's squishy, this thing's just going to delete it. The only other thing too is there is a support kit that you do need to use with this gun, so if your teammate's not going to hold it for you and reload you automatically, you do have a slow reload time with this guy. But other than that though, the firepower's there, the damage is there. I mean, you just can't go wrong with this thing. From there, we have the arc thrower. Now, the arc thrower is going to sit at a D for me. This thing is a friendly fire god. This thing is so amazing at killing your teammates. You know, anytime anyone uses this thing, I just end up dying all the time. Because they're not paying attention to where they're shooting. They shoot an enemy that's 10, 15 feet away from me. It arcs, it hits me, it kills me one shot. So, honestly, I would never buy this thing until it's like one of the last things that you need to buy just to have it unlocked. But other than that, I would never use it. It has a lot of firepower. Has unlimited ammo, never overheats, but I'm going to be honest, it just kills your teammates all the time. From there, we have the laser cannon. Now, this is sitting at a D for me as well. The laser cannon, it's just the damage isn't there. The firepower is not there. You can make it so this thing has unlimited ammo. You just got to make sure you don't overheat the heat core that's in it. But honestly, the firepower is not strong enough, and it's not going to really hit heavy armored enemies as well as it should, just because sometimes the laser kind of ricochets off of the armor. But there's so many other things that you can use in this game that are just so much better, in my opinion. From there, we have the grenade launcher. Now, the grenade launcher is going to sit in an A for me. Reason why is you can use this all the way into level 9 Hell Dive difficulty missions. The grenade launcher is extremely good at blowing up nests and eggs. It's facilities as well. If you're aiming properly, you can get them right into those vents of the building and blow up the buildings from range, which is really nice. And then also, if you're using this thing right, you can really lay down some supportive cover fire on a whole side and cover the flank of your team when you're trying to cover a objective, which is really nice. And you get this at a very early level in the game as well. So, you know, there's pluses all around. This thing is really versatile. You can get a lot done. From there, we have the recoilless rifle. Now, this is going to sit at a B for me. Reason why is the firepower is not there for a rocket launcher, which blows my mind. There's only 3 rocket launchers in this game, which is the expendable, the recoilless rifle, and the spear. And honestly, the recoilless rifle, for being the next biggest rocket launcher besides the spear that you get at level 20, this thing does not have enough damage. It just really does not. So I honestly think they should up the firepower on this thing to get it to do more damage. This thing would just lay waste to anything in first Helldivers, but in Helldivers 2, this thing honestly is just, it's very, very low on the firepower. I honestly don't like using it too much. Obviously, this is one of the first anti-tank things that you can get at the beginning of the game, so obviously you want to get it right away because you need to have anti-tank stuff. But other than that, man, like once you start getting into either the auto cannon, you're just going to bounce away from this really, really quickly. So next we have the Stalwart. Now the Stalwart's going to sit at a C for me. This is a light machine gun or large machine gun. It's a smaller version of the machine gun. Has less firepower, has a smaller kit, less recoil, which is nice. The pro thing to this is you do not have to be stationary while reloading this thing to reload it. You can be on the move while reloading it, which is really nice. But other than that, though, it just fails in comparison to the machine gun, which is what we're going over right now. So the machine gun, same thing, is sitting at a C for me. So at the beginning of the game, this thing has the most firepower out of anything you can use. You get this at the very beginning of the game automatically, so you just get it to use right off the bat. This is by far what you want to be using, definitely, because everything else that you get at the beginning, this just is by far the best thing to use. But it's going to lose its greatness pretty early on. Once you get into like level 4, level 5 difficulty, you're going to start running into crushers, and you're going to start realizing, hey, I need anti-tank weapons. I don't need a machine gun. I need something that's going to blow up heavy armor enemies. So you're going to really change your direction really quick early on in the game from using this guy. So honestly, it's not going to be at a high ranking for me. From there, we have the Flamethrower. The Flamethrower is going to be sitting at a D. This thing's not great whatsoever. It really lacks firepower. The damage is just not there. For bugs, I expected this thing to have, so to say, a critical hit in it, or a weakness to them, so to speak, for fire, but the damage is just not there. Sure, it's going to kill the light guys pretty good, but it does take quite a bit of it to kill a crusher. And battle times, I mean, you're just not going to use this thing on battle times. You're not going to want to get that close and stand there trying to hit it with a flamethrower the whole time. So yeah, it's sitting at a D for me. It's not that great. From there, we have the anti-material rifle. Now, this is a sniper. This thing does not give you a reticle, third-person view. You have to look down the scope to get any kind of reticle to see what you're shooting at. For bugs, this thing's not great because most of the time with bugs, you're going to be at a close range, which you really don't want to be using a sniper at close range, obviously. Mid-range, long range, this is where this thing shines, and it really shines against the bots because most of the time you are going to be doing long-range fights or mid-range fights with the bots because they have guns as well, so they're not really going to be advancing on you, obviously, as much as the bugs are. But other than that, I mean, you're basically just going to want to use this thing for bots. That's it. You're not going to use this thing for bugs that often. So that's why it's a D for me. Going from there, we have the Eagle Strafing Run. Now, this is going to be a D for me as well. This is only good for killing light enemies in a straight line from where you throw it. Other than that, it's not going to do any damage to the heavy guys, which most of the time, that's what you're looking for in your stratagems, is to kill heavy enemies with. From there, you have the Eagle Napalm Airstrike. Now, this is going to set it a C for me. It is a pretty decent stratagem to use just because you can put this over choke points, bug breaches, drop ships that are dropping down bots. This is going to cause damage over time as they walk through the fire, which is decent. But other than that, the firepower is not really there. The explosion that first happens when these lands, they don't really do that much damage. It's really the fire that's going to be doing the initial damage of the whole thing that's going to be the majority of the damage for you. But other than that, that's basically what it's going to do for you. The Eagle Smoke Strike, this is going to be sitting at a D for me. Reason why is this thing's not great for you. When you throw this down, it's obviously going to put up a smoke screen. Not great for bots. That's when you would be using this, is against the bots to reduce their accuracy when they're shooting. The issue is since you're putting up a smoke screen, you're not going to be able to shoot at them either. So, I mean, you're kind of defeating the purpose of what a stratagem's really meant for. I mean, this is good to, you know, if you got to move or something or get out of a sticky situation. But, I mean, there's other stratagems that you can use that can do that for you. So, as far as I'm concerned, you're looking for firepower. You're looking for something that's going to be killing stuff for you. Just for a stratagem to be support stratagem, so to speak, to help you run away. Honestly, I don't see the point in it, so it's going to sit at a D for me. The Eagle Cluster Bomb, this is going to sit at a C for me. This is only really good for light enemies. It does have the widest range for light enemies for damage from left to right, but same thing. It's not going to do any damage to heavy enemies. It's really good for clearing up some light guys, but other than that, that's what it's for. So it's just set at a C for me. From there, we have the Eagle Airstrike. Now, this is actually a really solid Eagle stratagem. I'm going to be putting it at an A for me just because I do actually still use this at max level. This actually has pretty good versatility. You can blow up bug nests with this. You can blow up eggs. It does damage to Palatines. It does damage to Crushers. It does damage to everything. So, honestly, it's a really solid stratagem that I like to use quite often. So that's why I'm going to put it at an A. It is not an S tier stratagem, in my opinion, but it's definitely an A, 100%. From there, we have the Eagle Rocket Pods. Now, this is between a B and an A. I'm kind of sitting towards the B more often, just because it's very, very direct. It's going to target the largest enemy within its radius of where you throw the stratagem, and it's going to target them and blow them up. This is more of a precision strike, which, in my honest opinion, there's other precision strikes in this game that you can use that are just way more stronger than what this is. So for like Battle Titans and Crushers, this isn't going to one-shot them. You might have to use this 2 or 3 times to blow them up. With Battle Titans, probably even more than that. So honestly, I just wouldn't be using this too often. From there, we have the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb. Now, this is an S tier perk. I see people using this all the time. I use it all the time. It's always one of my #1 perks I use every time. Same as the railgun. Those two I just use every match. By far, this thing is going to be able to blow up Titans on its own, blow up nests, blow up eggs, blow up basically anything you throw it at. The only thing that you do need to get used to is the call-in time that you have to time things with. But if you're actually playing it smart, what I do with Battle Titans with the 500 kilogram bomb is I actually run up to them to get them to do their stamping animation or their spew animation, just to keep them in one spot while my stratagem is charging under them, and I'll just keep on getting them to stay stuck in an animation, and then when I know the bomb's going to be there, I just start running away and they just blow up. So honestly, if you're using this thing right, it works really well. From there, we have the Orbital Precision Strike. Now, this is a D tier stratagem for me. Reason why is the call-in time for this thing takes way too long. And the reason why that it takes too long and it's really poor for that is because this thing is very, very precision. Like, your enemy that you want to blow up with this thing has to be on your stratagem when this thing goes off. If it's not going to do damage to them. That's how precision it is. So honestly, the timing and everything has to be perfect when you use this thing, and there's just too much what ifs that are going to happen, especially when you're getting chased by bugs or anything like that. You need your stratagems to be coming in quickly if they need to be a precision stratagem. If they're not coming in quick, you're not going to be very precise with it. From there, we have the Orbital Airburst. Now, I'm putting this at a D tier. Reason why is this is only good at doing damage to light enemies. This is not going to do any damage to heavy enemies. This is great for choke points, bug breaches, drop ships, dropping bots. But that's what you're mainly going to be using this thing for. This is not really going to be giving the cover that you need. You can use a sentry over this thing that's going to give you cover for a lot more time. But other than that, honestly, this thing is just not, it's lackluster to me. Honestly, it should do some damage to some heavies, at least a little bit. Just straight up saying that it's not going to do anything to the heavies, it's not enough for me. From there, we have the Orbital Gatling Barrage. Now, this is also a D tier perk. This is going to do damage to the light enemies. It's going to do a bit of damage to the heavy guys, but most of the time, it's just like the Airburst. It's just more of a precise barrage that's happening versus the Airburst, which is more wider. So that's why it has a little bit more damage to it. But same thing. Really good for bug breaches, drop ships, and choke points. But other than that, you really don't want to be using it for anything else. From there, we have the Orbital Gas Strike. Same thing. This thing is sitting at a D tier as well. It's good for choke points, good for bug breach, it's good for drop ships. But other than that, That's what it's going to be really meant for. It does damage over time in that area that you drop it in, and it does really strong damage. I'll tell you right now, if you want to troll your friends, this thing really does good at trolling, because if they walk into this for a couple of seconds, they're dead. It does so much damage to you and your teammates. But honestly, I feel it's a little lackluster to the enemies. It should be doing as much damage to the enemies as it's doing to you, because this thing eats you alive. It doesn't really eat the enemies alive, in my opinion. From there, we have the Orbital 120 Barrage. Now, this is going to be a C tier for me, reason-wise. This thing's really good at killing your teammates and yourself. The Barrage is really not going to be hitting where you want it to hit. That is my problem with this. This is like rolling the dice with your Barrage to have it hit what you want it to hit. So, honestly, in my honest opinion, you need your stratagem to do what you want it to do. And if it's not doing what you want it to do, which is, blowing up an enemy or killing a nest or killing the eggs, I don't see the point why you're using it if it's not getting the job done. So, honestly, it's at a low ranking for me. From there, we have the 360 Barrage, or the 380 Barrage, sorry. Same thing. This is sitting at a C tier for me as well. Reason-wise, this thing is the Friendly Fire King for orbital attacks. Same thing as well. In my honest opinion, if you're going to be using a stratagem to do a job and it's not doing the job for you every time, I don't see the point of using it, just because you need your stratagems to be doing their jobs. If they're not doing their jobs, then it's just a waste of a 4-slot spot. You only get 4 stratagems in this game to use per match, besides any of the ones that are given to you through events. But other than that, you really got to make sure that the stratagems that you're using are doing the jobs that they're inquired to do. If they're not getting that done for you, then why are you using it? From there, we have the Orbital Laser. Now, this is an S tier perk. This thing is amazing. You get it at the high levels. I believe this is 20 as well. This thing is very, very strong. There's 2 things that make this thing kind of awful. One of them is 3 charges on it only. You can only use this 3 times in a match. That's it. That's all you get. And the other thing is it's a 5-minute cooldown. Out of all the orbital stratagems that you can get in this game, this has the longest cooldown. Now, the pros to this thing goes off very quickly when you throw it. Secondly, it targets the largest enemy within its radius to start melting down. It's basically having a magnifying glass up in the air, and it's basically just melting all your enemies. So yeah, it lasts for 30 seconds, melts. As soon as it kills something, it moves on to the next largest enemy that it can see and just scrolls right over to them and starts melting them. So honestly, this thing is really, really strong. It gives you a lot of cover fire in this game as well. If you're in a pinch and you're really getting pushed back by either the bots or the bugs, this thing will turn it around for you every single time. From there, we have the Orbital Rail Cannon Strike. This is also an S tier perk. Reason why is this thing, once you throw it, it gives it a 1 second 1 second charge in time. If you have the ship module for it, it's instantaneous as soon as that stratagem hits the ground. Within its radius, targets the largest enemy and hits them with a Rail Cannon Strike from your orbital ship. Now, this does massive damage. The only thing that I have seen that has survived the 1 shot from this thing is obviously Bile Titans. Basically, anything else that you throw this thing at, it's pretty much going to kill it 1 shot. It's kind of, rolling the dice with the Bile Titan if it's going to kill it 1 shot or not. But honestly, this thing is solid. I forget what the cooldown time is on it. But out of all the precision orbitals that you can get, this is by far the best one. From there, we have the Orbital Walking Barrage. Now, this is going to be an A tier perk for me. Reason why is this is decently precisioned. When you throw the stratagem, it's going to do a barrage on the area that you threw the stratagem within a radius. After that, it advances forward and does another barrage. So it's going to step forward, do a barrage, step forward, do a barrage, step forward, do a barrage. This is really, really strong for clearing out bases. If you're about to walk into a base, you throw it right in front of the base, and it's actually going to walk its way through the base, so you can actually just follow in behind it and start doing the OBJ or, extraction, whatever you're trying to get into. This thing is really going to blow up the path for you, which is really nice. From there, we have the Orbital EMS Strike. Now, this is a D tier perk for me. Reason-wise, it's a support perk. This is going to slow down and stun anybody that's in its static field that it drops for you. Honestly, in my opinion, stratagems are needed to blow things up. That's most of the reason why you're using a stratagem, is to blow up a big enemy or anything like that, or give yourself cover from light enemies if you're getting swarmed. But other than that, most of the time your stratagems are aimed to kill something. It's going to be sent out of the D tier for me. From there, we have the Orbital Smoke Strike, same thing, D tier. This thing is, mainly meant for support, for you to get out of a sticky situation and run away. But honestly, in my honest opinion, like I was just saying in multiple times in this video so far, I truly believe that your stratagems are meant to blow things up, or to, give you a support item or a backpack. But most of the time, in my honest opinion, the orbital offense, anything, it's meant for blowing stuff up. So from there we have the LMG emplacement. Now this is a D tier to C tier for me. I'm kind of putting it at a D. Reason why, this is only really good for killing light enemies. It's not going to do anything to heavy enemies. And the reason why I'm putting it at a D tier is this thing has ultimate aggro. When I mean ultimate aggro is when a Crusher or a Bile Titan or any of the big bots stare at it, they lock onto it. They don't care what you're doing. They see anything that's an emplacement or a sentry, and they're going to go for it first thing no matter what. So this thing has unbelievable aggro just by putting it down, and anything that's big is just going to run up and kill it. And you can't do any damage to the big stuff with this thing. So honestly, you're completely defenseless on the things that are really going to charge at it and kill it. So I just would never use this thing. So from there we have the shield relay. Now this is viable on the right mission. This thing is really, really strong if you're doing a bot mission. Reason why is this will create a bubble around the relay in a radius. This is really good to put your sentries in, so if bots are shooting at you, they can't shoot your sentries while it's inside the bubble. I believe the bubble lasts for about 30 seconds and has a really, really short cooldown time. So even if you're doing objectives against bots, or if you're throwing down sentries against bots, this is going to give you a good 30 seconds protection from range attacks, and same thing for your sentries. It's going to keep them safe for that 30 seconds. So really good to give yourself some cover fire. From there, we have the Tesla Tower. Now, this is a D tier perk for me. Reason why, there's a lot of friendly fire to this. The firepower is here in this emplacement, but the fire rate, in my honest opinion, is not fast enough. This thing should have a way faster fire rate on it, so it should be melting all the little guys chasing up to it. But the fire rate, in my opinion, is not there. It's just not viable to use. From there, we have the anti-personal minefield. Now, this is going to a D tier because I have seen so many people die from mines in Helldivers 2, whether the mine is rendering underneath the ground so you can't see it, but it's there and you step on it and you kill yourself, or your teammates are just not staring at the ground because they're not expecting you to use mines, and then your teammates step over the mines, blow up, and then get mad at you for using mines, and then ask you, why are you using mines? Because it kills me every single time. So honestly, just not the thing I would want to use. You should use if you want to be a troll. I mean, that's all the power to you, but I highly advise not to do it. So from there, we have the incendiary mines. Might as well get these out of the way. Same thing, just like the anti-personnel mines. I would not be using this just because of the friendly fire capabilities. And also just with that, it's going to render it to the ground, and you're going to step on it eventually and kill yourself. So same thing, just like the anti-personnel minefield, just a D tier. It's going to blow your teammates up too much. So from there, for backpacks, we're going into the backpacks here. So the supply kit, this is a B to an A backpack, in my honest opinion, just because of the amount of support that this thing can give you and your team. This is by far one of the nicer ones for a support backpack to give to your team. So kind of a B tier perk for me, just because you're, or a stratagem for me, just because most of the time you're going to be on the move. Most of the time with a resupply, you basically give your full primary, a full secondary, and half of your ammo, depending on what kind of support weapon you're using. Sometimes it'll give you 2 rockets it'll give you 2 rockets if you use the recoilless. It'll give you 1 rocket for the spear. It'll give you 10 rounds for the railgun. It'll give you 2 clips for the autocannon. Basically, everything else is just going to give you full ammo for the whole thing. Honestly, though, this thing can be very solid in the right hands, being used by the right person, because when you're in the heat of the moment and you're running out of ammo and your teammate runs up to you and just gives you full ammo for your primary and secondary, and depending on what support weapon you're using, and gives you ammo for that just out of the blue, and you know you need ammo, and then you look down and you have ammo, it feels super, super clutch that your teammate's pulling that off. So it feels really good when they're on top of it for you. So from there, we have the Guard Dog Rover. Now, this is by far the better guard dog out of the 2 guard dogs that are in the game. This is an S tier backpack. Reason why, this thing melts light enemies like nobody's business. If you're not going to be using the shield generator pack, in my honest opinion, this is the next backpack that you really should be using. This thing will give you so much cover fire. It basically melts any light enemies or medium armored enemies just on its own. You really don't need to worry about it. This thing can overheat, and it just needs to cool down sitting on your backpack. But honestly, it'll kill about 30 to 35 light enemies before it gets to the point where it actually overheats. So yeah, this thing is super, super solid. Keeps you super, super safe. So from there, we have the jetpack. I'm giving it an A tier. Reason why is there's other things that you can use for a backpack that are S tier in my honest opinion. But this thing is still pretty solid. It does have a 20-second cooldown time per jump when you use the jetpack, so that's one thing to keep in mind as well. I feel like that's a little bit long, maybe 10 seconds. Would have been a little bit better in my honest opinion, but 20 seconds is a long time. Like, a lot of stuff can happen within 20 seconds of using this thing. So having it get you out of a sticky situation once is great, but having to wait 20 seconds to get you out of another one if you're in it, which very well you can use this jetpack, it's going to get you to jump over an enemy, but then you're going to be swarmed by other enemies. Like, it's not really going to get you out of that situation if that's the case. So from there, we have the regular guard dog. Now, this thing is absolutely ass. I would never buy this thing. The guard dog rover, which is at S tier, is definitely at S tier, and the guard dog itself is definitely at D tier. They are just on two separate play fields. The guard dog is awful because, don't get me wrong, it has more firepower than what the guard dog rover has, but this thing can run out of ammo, which, as soon as it runs out of ammo, it's not doing any damage for you. When you pick up ammo for this thing, you would think that would give you full clips for the whole thing. It's only giving you one clip. So, honestly, it's going to do one round of magazine that it's going to have on itself, and it's going to go right on your backpack. So, this thing is absolutely terrible. Do not buy it. Going from there, we have the ballistic shield backpack. Same thing. This is viable on the right mission. Reason why is you're not going to use this against the bugs. There's absolutely no point to use this against the bugs. It's only good against using it against the bots. Now, I would say this is good to use against the bots at the low level difficulties. Once you start getting into that high level difficulty, you would not want to have this as your backpack. There's just so much better things that you can use for a backpack versus this thing, and they outweigh this thing by a huge, huge amount. The ballistic shield's not going to protect you from a rocket. It's just not going to do it. It's not going to protect you from a tank shot. It's just not going to do it. So there's absolutely no point, in my opinion, the high level difficulties on bots to even use this thing. From there, we have the shield generator pack. Now, this is an S tier stratagem. I use this thing all the time. This thing is going to give you a bubble, protects you from slows, protects you from damage, protects you from basically everything. The shield does go down after it takes enough damage, but give it a few seconds and it goes right back up. By far, my number one backpack to use in this game, besides the guard dog rover, but you would be... You just honestly don't see me using the guard dog rover because this thing is just so much nicer to use. Just be able to take or soak one or two hits for you before you start running. That's what you really need this thing to do, because you're going to be shooting at stuff, and then as soon as you start getting hit, you know you're going to be in the line of fire or getting hit by bugs. So as soon as you hear your bubble get hit that first or second time, or see yourself get hit, you're going to start running. So most of the time, this thing's going to protect you from basically all attacks that are going to be the main problems that are going to hit you most of the time. The first and second hit in this game is always going to be the first or second hit that's always going to hit you, because you're going to be focused at either calling in a stratagem, shooting, aiming down sights, all that stuff. You're going to get shot or you're going to get bit by a bug while you're doing these actions, and with the shield generator pack taking that damage away from you getting hit from it, it's far superior to anything you can use in this game for a backpack. So from there, we have the machine gun sentry. Now, this is going to set at a D to a C tier for me, kind of a C, kind of a D. Reason why is there is a better counterpart to this machine gun sentry. I would buy this just because you get it at an early start of the game. You're very limited to what stratagems you can buy at the beginning of the game, and this thing does give you good cover fire at the beginning levels of the game. But once you start getting into the heavy enemies, the thing starts to become a little bit lackluster, because the heavy enemies, like I said before about the LMG emplacement, they have full aggro. They have ultimate aggro over you. As soon as the heavy enemy sees a sentry, they forget what you're doing as long as they're within its pull radius, and they just go straight for the sentry. So the machine gun sentry does no damage to heavy enemies, and the heavy enemies are going to be attracted to it and kill it every time. So from there, we have the Gatling sentry. Now, this is a B tier stratagem for me. Reason why is this thing is extremely strong at clearing up light enemies. By far, out of all the stratagems that are in this game that clear up light enemies, I think the Gatling sentry is one of the best ones. This one will give you huge cover fire. It will kill like 30-40 enemies for you. It is really strong. I love this thing. I use it quite often. Not as much as the autocannon sentry, which we're going to be getting to pretty quick here. But you know what? This thing is really solid for the level that you can get it at, and I would definitely pick it up as soon as you can. So from there we have the mortar sentry. This is a A tier to an S tier perk. Reason why is this thing's super solid in defense missions. This thing is going to lay down huge cover fire. The range that's on the mortar sentry is massive, like massive. So it's really strong in those regards. You just really got to be paying attention if your teammates are in a remote area pretty close to you, not obviously beside you, but kind of in your radius, 100 meters away. This thing's gonna blow them up if they're finding anything. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The range on this thing is absolutely bonkers. So just keep that in mind when you're using this. From there we have the autocannon sentry. Now this is the S tier sentry in my opinion. This thing is super strong, blows up everything, shoots 3 rounds per barrage when it shoots. This thing will kill titans. This thing will kill all the boss. This thing will kill crushers. I mean, it works like it's a hot damn. Like, this thing is solid. The only downside to it is the turn speed on it. Now, with sentries, the one thing you always got to keep in mind is whichever direction you're facing when you throw that stratagem, that is the direction that your sentry is going to open and face when it spawns. So always keep that in mind. If you want your sentry to be killing a titan that's near you, make sure you're facing the titan when you put your stratagem down, facing towards the titan, so that when the gun comes up, it is already aiming in that direction. If you're running away from a titan and you throw a stratagem in the way that you're running, which is 180 degrees difference from where that freaking titan is, your autocannon sentry is not going to turn around in time to kill it. The titan's going to get up to it, like I said, has ultimate aggro. The titan's going to see it, it's going to go for it straight away, and it's just going to kill it right away. So always keep that in mind. Aim your sentries in the direction that you want them to shoot. From there, we have the rocket sentry. Now, this is an A to a B tier, kind of a B tier in my honest opinion. Reason why, it's only viable in mid to long range. Anything that gets to short range in front of this thing, it will not shoot because it knows it's going to blow itself up. So it kind of just sits there expecting you to come over to blow up the light enemies, and by the time you even do anything, it's going to die. The rockets are very lackluster in firepower from this thing as well. I expect them to do more damage, but I mean, it's just like any rocket in this game. Basically, they just do not do as much damage as you would expect a rocket to do. So it's going to set at a B tier for me just because there is a few things that do need to be met for this thing to work properly versus the other sentries where they just do not care. They'll lock on to whatever's in their range and start blasting it. So, and last but certainly not least, the EMS sentry. Now this is an S to an A tier perk matched with the mortar itself for defense. These are S. By far S tier perks when they're matched together during a defense mission or anything like that, just because with the EMS mortar, that's going to shoot down a static field, so it stuns all the enemies that are in it, and then the mortar obviously shoots the mortars on top of everything. So hand in hand, they work together super well. The synergy is super strong with these two. So if you do use both of these sentries at the same time, these are definitely S tier perks just because of that. By themselves, they're pretty much A tier perks in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, that's all the stratagems that are in the game today. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Please hit the like and subscribe. Really appreciate it if you guys hit that for me. Just starting my channel out, so all those really help grow my channel and get it going here. So again, thank you very much for clicking on my videos, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you.